Okay. Part 3.
All right.
Nick, did you have any commentary off of that, or I don't want to, I don't want to, because I
I was
definitely
just
have more questions, but if you have
what
something
your
to say, please.
what's your draft? What are you going in? What's your draft strategy here? What are you thinking about? I got a couple coming up this week too.
All right. So I really don't like leaving the first few rounds, first like 2-3 rounds, without at least 2 top tier running backs for people that I think could break out because the position is so shallow. Rounds like 4 through 8, I think are great for receivers. I've found myself in mock drafts and other leagues taking 3 running backs and then taking wide receivers in the middle rounds. And then late tight end, late quarterback. I'm ending up with Cam Newton a lot, and I'm ending up with Hayden Hurst from Atlanta a lot.
Okay.
So that's my strategy. I'm okay with taking Lamar Jackson or Pat Mahomes like in the 3rd or 4th round. But when I've done that before, if they get hurt, my season's over. So I'm going for running back depth this year.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go just because of that drop. The drop off between the top quarterbacks is just not very big, from like the top ones down to 30. I mean, you can have a quarterback like, I mean, this isn't this year, but like Andy Dalton, you know what I mean? You can win with a quarterback that's not a good, I mean, you can win with Jameis Winston.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I won with Jameis Winston and Ryan Tannehill last year.
Yeah.
Like picking up random people.
So, yeah, I think that's a good I'm totally with you. I got Lamar in I think I drafted him in like the 9th or 10th round last year.
Ugh.
It was such a steal. And I mean, I ended up losing in the final, but I'm kind of thinking about who that sleeper is going to be. It might be, I mean, I'm probably going to, I want to, if Joe Burrow's hanging out at the end, I mean, he could flash, I mean, so I think, I don't know. Yeah. I think Cam's going to do really well too.
Kyler Murray, I think, could be that guy. He has a rushing baseline, right? And Kingsbury's offense is just going to try and throw up as many points as possible, right?
Yeah. When they just got Hopkins, so I mean, like they got more weapons.
And then Cam Newton, like he's on a 1-year deal. Like if you're Bill Belichick, you're not like, oh, I have to protect my quarterback of the future. Like I imagine they're just going to be like, if he dies, he dies. Let him run.
Yeah. If he dies,
he dies. and if your late round quarterback is trash, you just drop him. Pick up another one. I think there were like 34 or 36 quarterback ones. Somebody that finished with a quarterback 1 week through the year. So, I mean, you can just pick up a random streamer. I picked up Ryan Tannehill and rode him like through to the championship. So, can't do that with a running back.
No. Well, and there's only so many of those. Yeah, the running back is just a lot.
I think I got Kamara.
Those top guys, there's just a drop off. So you gotta.
Alvin Kamara's rookie year, I got him like in the 6th or 7th round. It was awesome. I was so happy.
Busted out. Yeah, Alvin who, yeah. So I just my strategy is always to get running back, and then if there's a good Packers receiver or something, I was trying to grab Devonta Adams because I'm in a league with a bunch of Packer fans.
Oh, you can flip him for way more than he's worth.
What?
And then you can flip him for more than he's worth.
Well, my strategy is then if they win, I still benefit. So like I can just feel good about, like if they win or something, or if they have a big game, I can feel like I'm a part of that. And so, but
I find myself targeting Sammy Watkins like in the 13th round. He's like free. Nobody wants him. That's because he sucked last year. But, I mean, he's on the Kansas City Chiefs. If I draft him at the very end and he's free, if he ends up being a solid wide receiver 2 or flex option with the best offense in football, great.
Dude, I think that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they're saying that he can go in like the 1st round, which I think is crazy.
Oh, I'm all in. All in.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've decided I don't care who you are. Like, if you're in the backfield with Pat Mahomes, like, you could have a good week.
Yeah.
So, I'm all in. I'm actually targeting him on the turn. I'm hoping to get a 1st round, like, stock back and then try and grab him, hoping he falls in the 2nd. I don't think he will, though.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, Ben, back to the pod.
Oh, no, that's good. So before we're not ending necessarily anytime. We don't have to end necessarily anytime soon, but I just wanted to hit this just, before the end or whatever. But when I called you to like make sure you could do this, see if you could talk with us, You expressed a very controversial
Mm.
trombone topic that I'd like to, if you could just like throw your opinion out there, just
Yeah.
talk about it.
So for my dissertation, I'm sure there's still more tweaking that I'll need to do for it, but what I'm going to base this project off of is using American art song as a preliminary phrasing study for students.
Like
And
just trombone or just anybody?
well, I guess you could do it, I guess, for any instrument, but I think a lot of other instruments have better standard materials than we do, right? So if you're a cellist and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to play the Bach cello suites, like probably a good call, right? Like Telemann flute etudes,
Yeah.
probably a pretty good call, right? I don't think we necessarily have as high a quality options in the trombone world. And here's my my hot take. It's that like Bordognis are bad. Like, don't hear what I'm not saying. Like, you can use them and accomplish great goals. Like they can be a good tool, but I don't think they're phenomenal music. I have never heard anybody besides a low brass player playing a Bordogni. And further, I've never heard a vocalist singing a Bordogni. So that's where this project started, is I thought that there was something we were missing there. And Bordognis were written for his students that he felt needed work and couldn't necessarily focus on like words or diction or being in an ensemble. They're just etudes. They're vocal etudes. And if they were awesome, then vocalists would still be using them. But I was talking to a vocalist friend of mine. I'm like, so what do you work on when you're talking about phrasing? And he's like, yeah, that usually comes with like music. It's like, we don't have like a phrasing exercise or like a phrasing book. It's like, we do rep. Like vocalists sing through this rep. That's like, they don't get assigned like, here is this etude exercises, right? I'm sure maybe some do, but in general, they're not going through the same lists that we are as low brass players, feeling that we need to hit. So I was like, okay, so I think there might be a deficiency here with using the Bordogni. So what is it? Well, they don't have words. So when you tell students like, play it the way you would sing it, like, okay, I'll go look up the lyrics, because that's what good kids will do. I'll go look up the poem. I'll go, oh, there's nothing, right? Like, well, play it the way you would sing it. And then this kid who's a freak trombone player, let's say, from like Austin, right, city or whatever, and he's like, oh, well, I didn't grow up listening to Italian art song or Italian vocal etudes. So they don't have a basis where they're coming from. You're not going off of prior knowledge. And there's something to be said for like, oh, well, then you need to go listen to a bunch of great Italian arias. Yeah, like that'll make them better. But you're still asking them in a week turnaround to synthesize a totally foreign musical style to them. One that doesn't have any words to back it up, like other songs you would play. And then you're asking them to come in and make music with that in that totally foreign style to them. I don't think that that's as effective as it could be. And I've fallen on American art song for a lot of reasons. Number one, there's a lot of text painting going on. So students can be playing through it. They're like, well, yeah, well, what do you notice about this? They're like, oh, well, that word's really cool. It says death. I'm like, okay, so do you think that's important? Like, oh, probably. Like, look at the chord there. They're like, oh, it's really extended and chromatic. Or they can just say, oh, it sounds weird. Like, okay, so it's important, right? They've made decisions. Leading up to this, what's happening? Like, oh, well, it picks up more rhythmic motion. There's more chromaticism. And then we lead to this spot. Like, great. So this kid that saw the word death, I just showed him a bunch of ways that we're leading towards that. We've gone from, he understands this language. He has heard this sort of compositional style, more so probably through movies, older TV shows, if you're playing like Tin Pan Alley, things like that, art songs from American composers. So they're not starting from square one. And even if they are starting from square one, if they've never listened to music before in their life, they know what the word death means. And if they're studying music, even though they've never listened to music, I guess that's weird. I don't know, we're gonna keep living with it. They know when a chord sounds funny. They know when a chord is different. If you have a student who's on the other end of that spectrum, who's like, wow, this is really cool. There's a Neapolitan chord. It's really extended. It's leading. This is super cool. How's it function? I'm like, okay, cool. So Neapolitan means someone's going to die. What happens right after this? And they're like, oh, the word death. I'm like, okay. So you think that really cool extended chord that you like, this altered chord, it related to something. So you can take those students that have a more analytical mindset and connect them to the artsy fartsy side of it. Well, look at the poem, right? How are we leading to this? Great. So how can you make this chord actually function the way they want it to, which is to lead to the artistic destination of death, right? And you can take students from the other end that see the word death, but don't know anything else that's going around it. Like, you know that it's leading to this word. Let's look at everything else that's happening in the music that's going to make that a destination point. And I think that you're starting from some prior knowledge, whether if they know what the word death means, or if they're a theory nerd and they know what cool chords are. You're starting from a much better place than like, yeah, have you ever listened to a wordless Italian vocal etude? No, well, go play this the way it should be played. And don't hear what I'm not saying. Bordognis aren't like trash. They're great on working on connection. You can set a drone to it and play through damn near half the thing before having to change the drone for intonation. They're ubiquitous, right? You can go somewhere and be like, oh, well, let's play something together. Let's play a Bordogni etude, right? And they're very familiar in the community. We know the things that we're supposed to work on in them. So I'm not saying that they're not good or they can't be used. And there are going to be some students, they're going to be the same as the students as Bordogni students. So you're like, okay, so they can't handle any of this other stuff. Let's work on notes, rhythms, and good sound. Right? So you can accomplish those goals. But then when it comes to developing phrasing and developing musicality, I just think there's so many better resources that we can use for that besides Bordogni. And this isn't in my dissertation topic, or making students do things in Bordognis or vocal etudes that are different than what has been expected to them. Like, okay, so you know what this sounds like. It's your job to go write words, right? Or it's your job to think about what would be happening in the harmony here. Or I've even had students that go like, oh, this melody is kind of lame. I'm like, okay, you're a comp student. How would you write this? What would you do to make this section more effective? And I think all of those are a more effective way to work on a Bordogni than the way that they are most often worked on. So that's why I like using art song as a preliminary study to it. And I settled on American because the majority of students that I teach are American, right? So I think it's an extension that we can use to supplement our pedagogy that I think it's easier to teach, honestly. Like, there's words, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is, if I'm looking at that, I'm performing a piece, it's going to be easier for me to learn how to be musical and expressive with Songs of the Wayfarer or Buy You Home, my Mahler and Grant Still respectively, than like Bordogni 7. So I can keep going on that. Y'all got any questions? I get real worked up about it.
Well, so it's like pretty much just like American folk songs, or is it just like, I don't know any, like I know songs that I would imagine are American art songs, but like what are some composers or songs of that genre? Because I mean, I know American music, but maybe I don't know specifically. I don't know, maybe I'm missing some.
This is where it gets fun. So I originally was thinking about doing this just with folk tunes, with songs that everybody knows but doesn't know where they learned it and has never seen the sheet music.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be really interesting, but the way that I saw that project going was more of a compilation of me bringing things together and displaying these folk songs that I think work well for it and telling people how they can use it in their teaching, rather than really accomplishing the goal that I wanted. I wanted it to be real music, not that folk music isn't real music. There I am sticking my foot in my mouth, but something that would easily transition to a recital hall.
Okay.
So that's how I landed on art song. Was as trombonists, we don't get to play pieces by master composers very often, right? There's way more Bach for cello than there ever was for trombone, right? There's way more Fauré for like vocal aria than there was like trombone solos, right? And without getting into another rabbit hole, and a lot of the solos that big name composers wrote for us aren't good. So I wanted to go with good music that is constructed in the way that we're expecting them to perform. So I landed on American Art Song because we're American. And as far as American musical identity goes, it's way easier for us to say, like, okay, so what does German music sound like? Like, oh, I like Mahler. Right? It's way easier for me, like, okay, so what does Italian music sound like? Oh, like Rossini. Like, right? It's way easier for us to do that. Like, what does American music sound like? Like, I don't know, Freedom, Milton Pot.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can even go back in the history, right, of Americans' classical tradition. We brought somebody else over. We brought Dvorak over. We're like, hey, tell us what we sound like, right? So I think that that's another deficiency that's present, is understanding what that American style is. And who I keep coming back to is William Grant Still. And that is because when I listen to his music, it sounds quintessentially American to me. So he's classically trained, but he's from down south. He's an African-American man. So he's writing music with not only that classical influence, but with, I would almost say it's sometimes subversive African-American musical elements in it, which I think we can say inarguably shaped our American musical style, right? So you'd have to start from like slave songs, African rhythm and polyrhythm, how they approach that and their original culture, and how it transformed through, you can say, like through port cities like St. Louis, how it changed into jazz, right? Eventually rock, eventually hip hop. So it's quintessential. So that's why I keep coming back to William Grant Still. And I go to Buy You Home, which I believe has been arranged for flute as well, and I've stolen it for trombone. And the words depict a very clearly American thing. I say, buy you home, right? You both thought Louisiana great, right? When we say like, yeah, it's a buy you home, you have a picture of what Louisiana's like. And the words mirror that. And his composition mirrors that as well. So you can take all of these things, understand what an American musical identity is, which your students will have some background in if they've lived in America and listened to American music. They know how to read, so then they look at the words. And then they're learning theory, they're learning chords. You can go and see how he extended this a little bit. Now you could try and say it's a suspension, but really it's just a 9. He just added a 9 to it. It's easier to look at this through jazz theory. And I think all of that is more holistic and inclusive to everything that we're expecting of students when they come in and they're studying to become music education majors, rather than just Bordogniing the shit out of them. Sorry, I got worked up.
You're good.
You downloaded a bleeping machine yet?
Nope. I'll just mark it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we don't have video on the first one, because I was a little out of control.
So, I listened to that one. I was like, you know what? I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I can control.
Hey, that's what I thought. And then it just slides out. Dude, is this thing done?
It's not done yet, so it's in pre-proposal, and I have materials that I want to use for it.
Yeah, can you just send me a bunch of that stuff, because that's really when it's done, because that's what I want to do with like a beginning band curriculum. I think it's ridiculous how we teach kids songs for 5 years and they're singing pentatonic stuff. They're singing complex, sometimes harmonies, and they don't even know it with songs that they're doing, and then the Orff stuff, they're playing, they can make up pentatonic melodies and stuff. And then we sit them into a room and we say, you know nothing, you will play hot cross buns. And we pretty much tell them, like, this is music. And it's like, how come we're not stringing along all this stuff that they already know, like you're saying, so that we're coming from a place of, what do you know, what's relevant to you, and how can we keep taking this to the next level, rather than, yeah, okay, here's something you know nothing about, Italian art music, and that would work in Italy, like with that tradition back in that time period, just like you're saying. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I think that's just super awesome. I want to do that into my practice, because I think that's beast. And you're totally right. Like, I was talking with someone today. We were lifting weights, and we were talking about how, when you set up for a lift, and whatnot, like if I wanted to practice my deadlift or a bench or something, if I do one set of 20, I'm going to get some type of value from that. But if I do 20 sets of one, I have 20 repetitions of setting up for that. That's way more efficient. I can get a lot more out of that, and I'll get a lot better at that lift by doing that in almost the same amount of time, you know? And so it's like you're saying with the buzzing and whatnot, it's about the tool and what we're using, and let's get a better tool. I think that's phenomenal, because you're totally right. You can't get any deeper with the Bordogni. You're totally right. Like, it's just,
you'll get to the end of a Bordogni, they'll be like, "Hey, cool, you added some phrasing into it. Nice. Let's do another one." They're like, okay.
And you're totally right. Like, I've totally just been like, play this like you'd sing it. But nobody sings that way. Nobody sings dee da da dee da. Like,
and you can learn so much more from vocal shaping. Like, how are they treating the end of this note, right? Or how are they exploding off the consonants in this more like intense section? There's so much more that you can take from it. And if I boiled it down even further, it would be, you have to learn a skill. You have to develop a skill. Do you want to start from somewhere where you have prior knowledge and understanding, some sort of base, or from nothing? People are going to choose prior knowledge each time, unless they're lying to you and they just want to act super gung-ho, like, "Oh, I'll learn a new thing." Right? If I take you in and I'm like, "All right, Nick, we're going to get stronger. We're going to the gym." You're like, "Sweet." And then I take you to like a hip hop dance class, and I'm like, "This will make you stronger, guaranteed. It's hard. You have no prior knowledge for it. It's going to be way more difficult for you to focus on what you want it to be, like a fun workout, right? You're going to be focused on all the other things."
mm-hmm.
It's going to be way better for us to go into, you're more familiar with a weight room, and go in and say like, "Hey, this needs to get better." You're like, "I know what I need to do from here. I know the right tool for the job. I understand how this works." So I just don't know why. And it's the same thing you talked about with beginner band too. Why are we trying to reinvent this rather than using prior knowledge? And in beginning band things, I'll be teaching a kid, I'll be like, "Yeah, that's syncopation." They'll go, "What?" Like, "Syncopa." They're like, "Oh yeah, great. I remember that one."
Yeah.
Or I'm like, "Yeah,
there's an Imagine Dragons song that goes like, I forget what it is, but like one of the verses, it has this awesome triplet line where it goes ba ba be da da dee da da dee da da dee, or whatever. And it was at my elementary placement, and the kids are singing this, like the K5 choir, and it's like this K5 choir is destroying these triplets. Like, it's so disgustingly musical, yet it's more fun to just sit them down and tell them to look at the board and be like, "This is what a triplet is." It's like they know what it is, but the way we teach them just isn't efficient, because you're right, it's just not relevant. You know, it's like we know so much more than, number one, we give ourselves credit for, and two, like that they know. It's almost like what you were saying about the mental health stuff. Like, we just get, or the audition stuff, we're just getting in our own way most of the time. So it's like, how can we get out of our way the most time and just kind of like let the things that we know just keep building on each other? It's like, I don't know. It's like we have so much potential, and we're really good at kind of stifling ourselves by the right way to do it. You know, like, no, like we have to do Bordogni's down an octave, or like whatever, or no, I have to only play Blažević, you know, because I only listen to Russian music. You know?
I'm gonna Arben Bordogni job.
Yeah, you know,
probably not gonna happen, right? It's probably gonna be like Arben Bordogni. Okay, recitals, right? Okay, so here's some excerpt prep. Do those job, right? It's not gonna come from mindlessly beating something in. You have to understand where prior knowledge is, and you have to meet your students where they are. That's why I get so passionate about it. And it's also because I feel like I am just now learning how to be a more musical player. And like I said earlier, where I wasn't planning or being efficient, I was just trying to buy practice by the pound. I was like, great, I'm just going to go in there, I'm going to shed. I could play a lot of things like at the written tempo with the things in there with no purpose. And I think it's easier to help students find a musical purpose with art song.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead, Nick.
No, go ahead.
Is there like a couple songs from William Grant Still that you find best, or a couple songs in particular that are American art songs that you would recommend? Because I'm curious to know how, like, because we're always told to like do Bordognis and Chimaras and Blažević, you know, whatever, down the octave, like for bass playing. So if I could translate it to like down the octave or whatever. I don't know how well it would translate, but I kind of want to try that out. So is there any song recommendations you have?
10 out of 10. I think I've said it a few times. It's Bayou Home.
Okay.
I think is phenomenal. And really, you can dig in. Copeland has arrangements of like simple songs, and he'll have like The Promise of Living in it. Everybody's heard Stephen Foster songs. Why don't we play that? We're like, oh, well, it's Stephen Foster. You know, he's just some American dude that wrote songs. You could even dig into some things that were sold on Tin Pan Alley that were meant to be mass produced and massively consumed by the public as entertainment pieces.
Mm-hmm.
A very easy place for a lot of people to start, even if you don't want to just be American. You can go to Studies in English Folk Song with Vaughan Williams and really dig into it. I've had good success with Brahms for serious songs, especially when talking about that text painting. So Mahler Songs of the Wayfarer is also very, very popular. But again, I'm falling back into a different tradition, right?
Yeah.
So another one that is already set for trombone is William Grant Still wrote Romance, and it's arranged by Doug Yale.
Uh-huh.
That one's not bad. I really prefer Bayou Home to it. And then if there's something that you're trying to throw into, let's say like a recital or performance, Markey has arrangements of some African-American spirituals.
Right.
I think that some of them feel a little contrived at moments. But it's set to piano. There's enough interest in it where it doesn't just fall into me saying like, okay, so I'm going to go in there and I'm going to play Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
But the chances of that being accepted over Markey's arrangement of it, it's more likely for Markey's arrangement to be in there. But it's coming from a similar spot. You can look up those words. You can see what he's done rhythmically or harmonically to see how that translates. But if I had to recommend one, it's that Grant Still Bayou Home. I think it's beautiful.
Okay. I'll definitely look into that.
Ben, literally, I was going to ask the same thing, except what I was going to ask is there like a resource or database you use? Like,
yeah.
Or like, yeah.
A lot of it's been my own digging and stealing rep.
Okay.
From other vocalists or other instruments that things were arranged for. So
have you looked into Coleridge Taylor at all?
I have not.
Oh, dude, he was another African American composer, American, and his stuff sounds just like Mahler. He wrote this piece that has this, it's called like Hiawatha's something, but it's beast. Samuel Coleridge Taylor, but I think he's in that same vein as William Grant Still. In high school, I was on the music listening team 3 years, which is essentially competitive classical music listening, which is pretty beast because you get this booklet of, you get something for every time period, and then they'll give you an ethno-music, which was 1 year it was Indian Carnatic music, 1 year it was Chinese music, and then 1 year it was Russian music, but they'll give you composers, too, and one of them was American music, and this dude was on there, but I mean, it sounds just like Mahler. He's a beast. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off there.
No, so then I'll dig through other ones as well. If there's a composer that I'm interested in, you can even just go. So one of it was it Hartley or White?
Oh, the old guys?
Yeah, one of those guys. Oh, I'm blanking. I think it's now that if I pick one, I'm gonna be wrong.
Donald White or Walter Hartley?
Yeah, one of them, I believe, wrote things for Frank Sinatra.
Oh, beast.
Or was friends with Frank Sinatra. I remember reading that somewhere. I put it in program notes, but I can't remember which one it was.
Maybe that's what inspired the Donald White tuba sonata.
So then right there, you
no way.
Down that rabbit hole, right? You might find something. Choosing these composers that you really enjoy their work and then just typing in vocal after it.
Okay.
I've found usually if it's a Western style composer, they have some sort of art song written. It was just a part of the curricula back then. It's something that you did. I mentioned Tin Pan Alley. We have very rich Tin Pan Alley. You can even go as far as like, who's to say you can't look into, be like, all right, so I'll play this thing from like The Music Man. Everyone's heard The Music Man. I've gotten more money being paid in musical gigs in rep that you can consider like not as legitimate. Made more money doing that, right? I've been exposed to it. You can go and look into that and develop a different musical style as well. So I really let it be curiosity based when I'm compiling these materials.
And what's so cool about the musical stuff too is that you can say, hey, go watch this.
Yeah.
So like you can literally see what's going on, you know, and I feel like I used to not really like the musical and theater people. It was kind of just like, yeah, like I'll use the bathroom. I'll walk, you know, an extra building over to use the bathroom and go down there.
And go there.
But I mean, but it's like really good. I don't know, like I really dig musicals now. Like I haven't watched a lot of them, but I want to.
Like Billie Holiday. Who's to say you can't just find that and be like Billie Holiday music, vocal bass, and you'll find something somewhere, and learn a musical style that you're familiar with, but maybe haven't spent a ton of time living it, right?
Sure.
I think you were kind of touching on this when you were at the U of A a little bit, because I remember in like our freshman fundies class, you were talking about like if we were ever having a bad day on the horn or whatever, just playing something that we knew or something that we liked. And that's where I kind of, I mean, I do that. I've done that like since then. Like it's part of my warm up. Like I have a whole musical playlist, and granted I'll skip through like most of it because most of it isn't like super, the phrasing is really weird and there's a lot of weird jumps. So it's like when I'm warming up, I don't want to do that. I want to do something lyrical. So like people will say We're in Love from Oklahoma. Like that's one of my staple ones. And so I don't know. That's cool that, I don't know, it's coming full circle.
And you can even go a step further on that and be like, all right, great. So I really, really know that tune. I'm not good at the B major section of Hariano. So how about I just play this tune in B? I know it. Like you don't have to think about that tune anymore, and you can just remove and just make music.
Right.
Starting in a different spot.
Yeah. That is something I definitely need to do more of. I know I've heard that said to me lots of times and especially if I wanted to like get into, I've heard that for like jazz advice about like getting into improv and just playing in different keys. I mean, Nolan's talked about that before, and I think Blake as well, but yeah, that's something I definitely need to do more often.
This is a tangent, but it cracks me up when I encounter people that are like, yeah, well, you know, I'm more of like a jazz guy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. So like, what is it? Like how are your super Lydian scales or whatever? Right? And they're like, oh, I'm like, there are more scales there, dude.
Yeah.
You didn't like scales already. There's more, and it's basically all you do. So if you're a jazz guy, you're a scales guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty funny to see how quickly that opinion changes after that.
That's true. That's true. Well, Nick, do you have any last comments you want to say?
Zach, it's been good to Zach. It's good to see you. I didn't think I'd see you without your hair, but
just give me another year. It'll be back.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I look ridiculous. I look so apish. I'm just gonna have to grow the hair back out.
Dude, it's a good look.
It is a good look.
Yeah, it's a great look.
Yeah.
Well, you should have seen it earlier when there was a mustache. That was bad.
You had a stash?
I tried. It was bad. It was really bad. It went back to the anxiety thing too. I just messed with it. I was just like, there's something here. We'll play with it.
Oh, dude, I do that all the time.
I played this game where I would find the thickest hair and pull it out and look at it. And then I realized I was like, this is just stressing me out more than anything. And I'm making it thinner every day playing this dumb game.
Yeah.
So I got rid of it.
Dang. No, I totally understand. Well, Zach, dude, this has been freaking awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us. And is there a way that people can like, I don't know, do you have any stuff you want us to plug?
Oh, what? No.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything that I really want to plug or anything.
Okay.
Let me think here.
You have a website or anything?
I would like to plug drones. Drones are pretty cool. I would also like to plug metronomes. Those are pretty sweet.
What about Wim Hof?
I have trouble now that he's on the Gwyneth Paltrow Goop stuff.
Okay.
But but Wim Hof's pretty fun. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, yeah. Well, let's see. What else can I endorse that's really odd? I endorse King Arthur Flower as a trombonist. I don't know. Play the trombone, get better.
Nice. And be mentally healthy
Yeah,
at the same time.
And promote mental health. Yeah,
Take care of
we
yourself.
work mental health here on this podcast.
Yes.
Swab out your slide, clean your trombone.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
That's all I got. I don't know.
Nice. Well, dude, thanks again for talking with us and for jumping through the part loops, part 1, part 2,
No
part 3
worries.
loops. So super appreciate this. We'll probably do this again because I've got like so many more questions for you that, I could spend all day asking. So
Let me know. I can engage in academic and in ridiculous discourse. So.
oh, heck yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you did, and if not, that's okay. Hopefully you'll listen next time.
Yeah, Zach, we have
All
about
the way
like
through me
4
ranting.
listeners.
Oh.
So,
No, our top video has 97 views. We're almost past the threshold.
we've almost breaking 100.
Yeah, and that was our first one.
Oh,
Is that one like you get sent a Band-Aid from YouTube that like has a logo on it or something?
I have no idea. But all right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Have fun with your fantasy draft.
good
I
luck.
will. All right. See you later, nerds.
All right.
Over and out.
See you guys.